Welcome to Cooking with Callum, a show with cooking by Callum. I'm not a trained chef, but I have a lot of time on my hands. It's a lovely day here in Bristol. It reminds me of being on holiday in a hot place like Turkey. And when think I'm in a hot place like Turkey, I want to make food. So I'm going to make pide. Pide is a Turkish flatbread, often stuffed with other food and fillings. It's very nice. Wow, look how long this one is. I don't think my oven is long enough to fit that. Now let's get cooking. First thing you want to do if you're going to be making a dough or bread is measure your ingredients carefully. So let's get the scales. So you got to press the on button of the scales. You press it on and then it will say how much it weighs. Oh, you press the on button on the scale. Nope. Okay. Well, it appears the scales are not working today, which could make things difficult, so bye! In this bowl, I got 300 grams of flour, olive oil, and a pinch of salt. And here we got 250 ml of warm water and some dried yeast. You want to add the yeast to the water. As you can see, I had to grab hold of a fork because I didn't have one to hand, so make sure you've got something to stir with. And you stir it up real good until it's all milky and cloudy and gross. Perfect. Look at that. Very cloudy. Can't see through it at all. That means the yeast is in the water. Very, very good. Oh, now we add the yeast water to our flour mixture. Looks good. Make sure not to have any yeast clumps at the bottom of it, because that would be bad. Don't want that. You need the yeast in the dough. Now for the messy part. Take your hands and mix the flour together. I'm using one hand because I'm holding a camera, but you can use two. As you can see, I did not gauge what 300 grams of flour was like correctly, because this is far too runny. So make sure to add more flour if you need to. Perfect. That's more like it. Now just keep on kneading away and squishing and squashing this dough until it is all mixed together. Once done, you'll have a ball of dough. Make sure to just cover it with a nice clean tea towel. No, not that one, that's dirty. A nice clean tea towel and leave in a warm place to rise. Give it a pat for luck. In the meantime, let's make our filling. Grab yourself a bowl or Tupperware pot. Next thing you're going to need is some passata. I should say at this point, I don't really know what goes inside of a pide, but I've made some things which I think taste nice. So get your passata and fill that bowl up. Next, it's time for seasoning. I like to start off with a nice bit of herbs. Oh, that's too much herbs. Mixed herbs are good though. Then grab some rosemary. My rosemary is inside an old MyProtein amino acid or creatine monohydrate pot because it's a good sized pot to have in the kitchen, but please believe me, it's rosemary. That's the green flavor. Now for the red and brown flavor. First, paprika. Smoked preferably, but I can't afford that, so here's some regular paprika. Next up, cumin. As you can see, I've got Jira ground cumin. Ground is better, because if it isn't ground, it's quite bitty. Pour it on in. Nice. Here comes the sumac. Sumac is quite an interesting spice, as it's very tangy. I believe it comes from a red berry, but I don't really know, to be honest. However, if you don't have sumac, just use a tiny bit of lemon juice. It gives it some tang. Now, add a pinch of salt as well. Don't forget the pepper. Here's where things get a bit different. I'm using seitan, which is a vegan meat alternative, and these hunky boys are some that I made earlier today. As you can see, it's very meaty and very hunky. It's made out of gluten flour and is very cheap to produce, and you get a high quantity. If you would rather use something different, just use any old regular mince or corn mince. Both is good, but preferably not real mince, because bad mince is bad. Now put it in the blender. If you're like me and my blender doesn't have a latch that works properly, fill the latch hole with blue tack, then get a teaspoon and twist it so you press down the button and then the blue tack will hold it in space. As you can see, doing this with one hand isn't too easy, but I'm sure we'll get there in the end. Some people don't like the sound of blender. They say it's loud and scary, but I find it relaxing. Wow, that's a lot of mince style food. Now get the mince style food and the seitan and you pour it into your tomato. You see it's got the seasoning in there already? This is the final touch. Once you got it in, grab yourself a spoon and mix it all up. It's going to be quite sloppy, so make sure you mix it good so you don't get little pockets of paprika or cumin or even sumac. Yet, as you can see, it's mixing good and nice. By the end of it, you'll probably end up with it's Maisie! By the end of it, you'll probably end up with a texture very similar to a spaghetti bolognese almost, but without the onions and mushrooms. Looking good. Now that the dough has risen nice and good, we're gonna make the actual bases to our pides. Get some flour on a clean-ish surface. Emphasis on the ish. Then you're gonna spread the flour around so the flour stops the dough from sticking to it. This next bit was the most difficult to film because I needed two hands, so please bear with me. As I don't particularly know a good way of rolling dough, I just crimp it kind of with my thumb, as you can see. I do this until I got a big round open piece of dough. Just cover it in flour a bit more, a little bit more thinner and a bit more shape, then cover in flour. Then you got to put it on a pizza pan or some sort of hot stone if you have it. It may usually need a better shape than this, but I don't mind. Now get your syrupy sauce stuff and you spoon it on top. Give it 3-4 hefty spoons, spread in an almost vertical line going up. Because this isn't a pizza, it's more of a filled bread, you can have the sauce be quite a lot inside of it. It's not just a topping, it's a filling. So when you're ready, put away the sauce and get ready to make the shape around the edge of the sauce. There may be a specific technique to doing this bit, but I don't know it. But all I do is roll the edge and kind of lift it so it's kind of a wall. It's difficult to show you this effectively with using just one hand and a phone as a camera, but I think you get the idea. The key thing is building a wall so that the sauce can escape. Okay? You build a wall, keep the sauce in. Now that the sauce is in and the wall is built, time to put a lid on it. Grab yourself some cheese. I'm using a coconut-based cheese alternative because it's nice, but you could probably use regular cheese, I think. Then you just sprinkle it all on. Once you put the cheese on, you just put it in the oven for maybe 20 minutes or so, and as you can see, it comes out looking real nice like. Give it a couple of quick tippy taps to make sure the dough cooked through and not soft and bad, and you're good to go. Put it on a plate, get a sharp knife and fork combination, and walk it down the stairs to your partner or whoever is going to be eating the pide. It could even be yourself. Always serve with a smile. When it's ready to eat, get them to have a nice big slice through it, and then they'll know if it's cooked properly. This food's so good, even the cats like it. Here's Maisie having what was left on a plate. It's only crumbs, but she knows it's worth the wait. Hey Maisie, what would you give not authentic Turkish Pides? Good review? Yes!